Elizabeth, Dr. E. Carter here. Welcome to the Elevate Your Value Summit, where we bring resources to you to allow you to elevate from where you are and empower you to go as far as you'd love to be. We are here to fulfill you, guide you, provide you information, and today we have someone special for you. Chou Hallegra. She's the founder and CEO of Grace and Hope Consulting LLC. Isn't that powerful? Grace and Hope. I love it. She writes, trains, consults, and coaches to promote resilience, social emotional learning, human potential, well being, and belonging for all. So empowering. She's a mental health and DEI consultant with 23 years of human services. Now, I won't tell you everything about her. I want her to share more about herself with you. Please welcome to the Elevate Your Value stage, Chou.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you brought together Grace and Hope Consulting.
I like to coin myself as a well-being and belonging consultant, and I do all the things that Dr. E just mentioned there. But I'm very passionate about helping people and organizations be well, work well, do well, lead well. And so all of that, it looks like sometimes it's individual sessions for coaching, sometimes corporate training, and we work around things like stress management, team building, um, belonging, well, work-life balance, and so much more in between. But I started Grayson Hope Consulting in January of 2016 because I wanted to give back. I wanted to provide the same support that actually I needed myself. And this was the perfect way to do it in my own terms while also finding my own work and life balance. I've struggled with well-being and belonging challenges, and I know firsthand how it feels like to feel out of balance, to feel disconnected from yourself, and from others, while you're fighting with some fears and insecurities, inside that nobody else knows about, right? And you serve and you serve and you serve, and sometimes you mask all day and just to go home and crash behind closed door, and nobody knows the pain you're feeling. So I know how all that feels to have big dreams and work on it so hard by yourself and feel like nobody else is in your corner, where nobody believes in you or in your dreams, and you kind of felt left by yourself. And I know how it feels, like the lack of support, what it feels like. So I'm here with what I do at Grayson Consulting. I make sure that no one, no leader, no visionary feels alone on their journey. And it's not just about working well, but like I said, make sure that they're doing well, they are well, so they can lead well as also. And for all of that, by at the end of the day, what I often tell people is that I'm grateful today that I've learned to turn my own stumbling blocks into stepping stones so that I can help others have a effective roadmap, if you want, to help them prevent the pitfalls that I fell under into, but also sometimes recover from them and recover well.
Yes, thank you so much. You're right about, well, we'll go to work and act like nothing is wrong, but we are carrying so much baggage in our backpack, if you will, because we are taught to we're strong, we can get over it, we can do anything, but sometimes it's challenging. There are moments when we can't, and you're right. We need to be able to be okay with not being okay all the time. So thank you so much. So about what was that one challenge you went through that really drew you to say, I want to be the resource that I needed when it was absolutely necessary for these
Yeah.
tools and resources?
Yeah, my own mental health challenges, to be honest, and I have no shame to say I struggle with depression, anxiety, and PTSD to the point where I couldn't find the strength to keep going, and I needed to make sure I needed to support myself, and not only to keep going and still alive, but not just live, and just for the sake of surviving, quote unquote, but actually thrive, right? And once I got the support I needed, I realized there's so many of us kind of faking it to make it, and to the point where we can't fake it no more and we need that support. And once we get it, it's not just looking to showing up at work. Are you showing up for yourself? Are you showing up when nobody else is there, right? Are you showing up at home that you are happy with yourself? So for me, that was a turning point. And I started doing with individuals and then, expanded into corporate work field because I also noticed a lot of my friends, a lot of people who look like me or work like me often hide for work, right? Work becomes an escape. And so I meet them where they are, and together we find ways to build resilience and bounce back from whatever life throws at us.
That's awesome. And you said something interesting. You said we fake it till we make it. And a lot of times there's a point where we shouldn't be faking it, but we continue to fake it. So I
Hmm.
love that, if we can find ways to catch people before they're all the way to the bottom, that is astounding and so beautiful. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that. So again, you mentioned a little bit about yourself and you were going through some certain things. Was it something going on in your work or your home life? So what was really going on when you didn't feel as if you were being valued? You had this sense, you said, you mentioned, of the depression. What was that really making you feel? I want people to understand that if you're in that same space, you want to be able to
Hmm.
recognize what it looks like. So just share a little bit
Yes.
about what that could
Yeah.
look
Yeah. So for me, again, it feels like yesterday. So although we're struggling with all those internal stuff, as we call, the baggage, that package, even if you want, that no one was seeing, I showed up at work, right? And then everything at work became a trigger. What people will say, I will interpret it through the lenses of depression. When I'm already not feeling like I'm good enough, I'm not doing enough, and someone say, "Oh, that project is not done. That document was due yesterday," and maybe they were just it was a gentle reminder, but I saw it as like literally a slap in the face. I did something wrong. Here's evidence that I couldn't do it, right? But that's what literally depression would do to you. That's why insecurities would do to you. So you don't have to be at the point where I was struggling with depression to that point. But sometimes it's also unresolved trauma. And I have had situations where I'll be in the workplace working a project. I'm running my own business. I feel like, I'm living my dream, right? Someone would say something that I thought I processed 10 years ago. And it hit me in a different, like, why am I feeling on edge? Why am I just like a little unsubtle with myself? Right. And I realized it wasn't always what people were doing or saying. It was how I was interpreting it through the lenses of what I've been through or through the lens of what I was actually dealing with internally. Right. And then so I maybe have projected as people not valuing me, but it was me because I was not valuing myself. And I had to work for that. And there've been times too where people didn't value me. I remember being on a project where they hired me because they needed a consultant, and I get there and everything I said was always dismissed, turned down, and it didn't. I could give them a free resource. They'll find 20 million reasons why they shouldn't explore that. And I'm like, well, you guys wanted me here, but now that I'm here, it feels like you're so stuck in your own way. It's hard to make, to help them divorce if you want, from the status quo and to be open to new things. And as time went on, I realized for them, it was just checking the boxes, right? They had some requirements for this grant, and the requirement was no diversity. Well, we're all about DEI these days, right? So for them, they hire a consultant that was Black, that's a female, and that's a person with disabilities. Guess what? They checked all the boxes on paper, but it was all for show, and that even hurt so much. So I felt like, yes, I was bringing something to the table, but people didn't appreciate it. People, no, honestly, didn't even want it. They were just kind of going through the motion of, looking, showing to the funders that they met the requirement, but they had no intention of hearing me, seeing me, and valuing what I had to bring to the table. So it was frustrating at first, but then it went beyond just being frustrating. When I realized what was going on, behind closed door per se, I felt like this disposable accessory. I can show up just so that they can check the box. We all heard the term of tokenism. So yes, I look good at the table, but my voice is not heard at the table. Right. And then I still feel a little disgusted, just being honest, by the way those who felt like they had more power in this project, in this team, kind of schemed their way around to misuse that power for the selfish ambition. That hurts. That really hurts. So yes, that it goes both way. What I'm telling myself, but sometimes it's what's happening, and then also I interpret. I could have chosen to get stuck there and say like I have nothing to value, nobody wants me anywhere. Or I could again bounce back from it, right? Elevate my own value and continue to serve from who I am and what I do.
That's great. You said a lot of great things in there. My elevate your value audience. She first of all, she said triggers, and I for sure we all have something that we're carrying, and someone can say something that will trigger an emotion of something that happened to you 10, 15, 20 years ago, whether it was something a leader said, something that your family member said. So you're right, it really is. We have to first check ourselves and realize what they said has nothing to do with what's going on today. So I love that. And you also mentioned about checking the box.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, there are still circumstances where that is still true. And I always make sure that, especially I tell people, they check the box, but they still have to continuously check the box. So they still, as you mentioned, still need to figure out how to understand and value what you do, because even though they're checking the boxes, you couldn't get to the table without having the credentials and the background to do the work. So thank you
Mhm.
for sharing all that. So let's talk about the a place and time when you absolutely felt valued, where you knew you were there for the right reasons and you were hearing the right things and everything was going beautiful.
Yeah, totally different experience. So another project, another team, and this team had a different workplace culture, and people operate with integrity, and they were very ethical in what they did. And actually working with them didn't feel like work. It was like connecting with old friends that I lost contact with, although we never met before. And what I realized after later on was that the way this team operated aligned with what mattered to me. And side note, if you're dreading to go to work, if you're dreading to answer that phone call or respond to that email, ask yourself, what about this company? What about this team? What about this activity, align with my value or not? Because often those are the things, back to those triggers, right? We feel tense, we feel overwhelmed, we feel frustrated. Sometimes because we're connecting with things that we don't value or don't align with what we value, right? So with this team, like they actually anticipated my contribution. Why I think they value me before I even, contribute anything. And I believe that's because they're presumed competence. Like you said, I need the credential to be at the table, right? To check the box even for myself, to even, for them to have me as a consultant. But even at that point, and although that got me to the door per se, they also were very transparent and made sure that I was aware of what was going on, whether or not it was something that I was responsible for, or even something that I needed to do for my part of the project. But what they understood was that being included helps people feel valued. They included me and gave me opportunity, and many opportunity to participate when and where I wanted to, even when it was not within quote unquote my job description as a consultant, right? And I was an external consultant, but they literally integrated me within their team, and I felt included. I feel valued, right? Because of that. And they couldn't wait to share things with me, and I couldn't wait to hear, because now I'm like, oh, my voice is needed, right? Is wanted, appreciated. They were waiting for my input, and I couldn't wait to give it. And that made a big difference. And I think in general, if we see value, if we see people as individuals of value, source of value, even if you want, it's easier to value them. Then guess what? It's also then easier to expect them to contribute things of value. It starts from that. I think that perception is everything. Why they saw me as something of value, as a result, they value me for who I was, even not just because of what I could do. And then I could that enable me to show up as my full self. And now I have to mask who I was, but be the authentic Chou that I am and show up there. And then they also then, because of that, I can provide and contribute at my highest value, and they can get the best out of me, if that makes sense. So yeah, totally different experience. And I still love working with this team. Every time they call, it's always a yes. I'll make it work because I love working with that team.
That's great, and the message behind all of that. And you said it's the same company, different team, and so often that's all it is. It's just a shift to another team. I won't say better team, another team, and it's like you're in a totally different place because again, the respect is different. You were included. So I always say to individuals, if you don't like where you are, we can figure out how you can get someplace else and
Mhm.
not leave the company. If it was a
Yes.
big company, there's plenty of places for you to move to and have a conversation. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. So
Yeah.
the piece of that is about your uniqueness. What do you
Mhm.
consider I call your special sauce, and how do you leverage that in the projects that you're part of?
Yeah. I think what I've heard from many people that I get the privilege to work with, it's that I meet people where they are, And when I'm with them, I make them feel like the most important person in the room. And the way I connect with people and it's genuine. I'm not, again, I don't force it. It's just who I am and how I'm wired. Maybe because it's something that's important to me. It's something that I value. So it's easy for me to give it. Right. And so the way that I leverage that, and honestly, it's showing up as myself, not wanting to be someone else, not wanting to clone, anybody else. Yes, I learn from others, but I think embracing authenticity allows you to show up fully in a very genuine way. Whether I'm working on the project, whether I'm in the community where I'm parenting, my kids, my friends, my coworkers, my colleague know they can get the best out of me because like Chou is real. What you see on and off camera is the exact same person, right? And that helps as well. And it's easy for me to embrace that because I realize that yes, I have strengths, but I also have weaknesses, and I don't let my weaknesses if you want to overpower me, I acknowledge them, I work on them, I seek support because I know I do a lot. People say, how do you do all the things you do with all the limitations that you appear to have? I say, because I don't do it by myself. I recognize the things that are hard for me, the things that sometimes it's just I know how to do, I don't like to do it. Then I delegate, I find support. So guess what? I can maximize my time, my energy, my resources on the things that are my strengths, right? And then I'm actually able to accelerate my growth.
Thank you for that. You heard that, folks. Delegate. Let someone else do the things that you're not great at or don't like to do. This way you spend your time in your area of passion and purpose. That's great. Thank you for that. So
Yeah.
when people come to you for help, what is like the number one problem, especially you said you work with work-life balance for women leaders. What is their challenge in that balance piece?
So I'll say often when they come, they'll call it stress, right? And that's usually like 90% of my intake from it stress. And I get it, it's a big term, but a lot of things can hide underneath that. I often say stress is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Something there's a whole entire tsunami, if you want, of issues that are causing that, and whether even when we feel that our life is out of balance per se, but maybe it's because of or need to please others, right? Maybe it's because we have our own unhealthy belief systems that are maybe guiding us in how we do things. So if I believe that nobody else can do it better than I can, that I'm doing I do to the point I crash, then I won't have a sense of balance in my life. But it's also me because I'm doing it for myself, right? And to myself per se. But sometimes it's also speaking of values. Sometimes our lives are just out of alignment. We do things, sometimes we're doing great things, but we're doing without purpose. Right? Many people will lead because they're expected to lead because they're great leaders. But are you leading in the way that you want to lead, leading for the reasons that you want to lead? Right? What are your values? What matters to you? And make sure that everything aligns with that. That's what I've found to reduce stress, honestly, 100% of the time. Because then I say yes to the things I learn what I'm doing. If it doesn't check the box, back to checking the box, then I say no. And I have no problem saying no because again, I know the next time I say yes, I'm showing up fully and not too drained to be present so that I can give that person again that undivided attention.
Wow, thank you. And thinking about, stress, I'm going through a lot of things in my life right now, and I just took a part-time job because I said I'd rather work someplace part-time where I'm
Mm,
100% engaged and motivated than be at a
yes.
full-time job where half of the stuff I don't want to do or is politics or things that I don't enjoy. So
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's challenging to make that shift because it's potentially a financial change to that or
Mhm.
disruption in the home, trying to make that shift. So I appreciate you working to guide women to allow themselves to first recognize the imbalance and work to create, and I call it harmony, same thing as balance,
Mhm,
to be able to
mhm.
ensure that they are focused on the right things so that they are
Yeah.
fulfilled. That's
Yes,
thanks.
yes.
That's great. And when you think about that, you said the women come to you because of stress, and you mentioned a bit of why they're out of balance. Do you think for women leaders that there's this extra layer of expectation that also brings them stress?
Yes, yes, because what I've seen, leaders, female leaders who are trying to prove themselves at work and at home, right? At work, we try to prove that we can lead just as well as anybody else, and then we take on way too much to prove that point, right? And then at home, we're like, well, I can do both. So at home, I'm also going to do way too much because I don't want to feel like I'm not a mom or a spouse enough or a partner enough, right? And although I get it, I'm obviously a female as well, and I totally understand that. But I think it also starts with back to the unhealthy self-beliefs that I mentioned, right? If I feel like I have to prove myself, and I know there's a lot of systematic, things going on in the background that we're all exposed to, right? That we're trying to fight against. That I'm not taking that lightly. But again, what stories am I telling myself? Right. And if I can have feel safe in that at home to tell my family, hey, right now this is a hard busy season at work. I might have to pull more hours because I have some clients who work in insurance. This October here, it's like they're not, we're not cooking because they're just not time for that. It's enrollment season. If you feel, I hope that we can all feel safe enough to have this conversation with a loved one at home, right? Like this is busy season at work. I might not have as much time here at home. What are the things that we need to prioritize? We're back to delegating. Who else can we delegate to? I maybe take this to the extreme, but I see my family as my team, and we work together. In order for me to show fully and make an impact outside of my home, I need the team at home to support that, to believe in me, and also allow me to do that. Right? We're here doing this. That's the time where I take over my family, and I have to communicate that. And the same is in reverse when it comes to work. If there is a special, kids are graduating, going to college, and getting married, the special events happening in your family, I hope that we can be in workplaces that are safe enough for us to communicate. I say right now, home needs me and work needs to take the back burner just a little bit. Right? That's work-life balance right there. It's not that everything has to be balanced or equilibrium at every single second. It's for the
Mhm.
season that you're in, what's the priority? And that's where you invest all your energy in.
Yes, yes. And we talked about asking for help or communicating, that you need assistance. The same for the others. They need to say to
Mhm.
you, hey, where can I help you? A lot of times people think, oh, she's fine. There's nothing going on. She's got it all together. But no one ever lends a hand to say, hey, you know what? Do you need anything? Can I help you? And that
Right,
saves,
right.
some of the conversation around you trying to figure out who to ask and who to do what, and people can come to you and say, hey, you know what? You look like you got it all together, but do you need any help? So I always love is
Yes,
both parties need to ask, which is great.
totally
Which is
agree.
great.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So let's talk some quick tools that someone can do if they're having this sense of stress or they feel that stress starting to creep up on them.
Yeah. So first ask yourself, what's the tipping point? Right? What got you to this edge here? Because often things don't just happen overnight, right? Like back that tsunami of effect, right? Often things are growing underneath there and then explosion happen. So if you take a moment and tell yourself, ask yourself, what caused the explosion? Let's go back. Right. And I'm all about reverse engineer, but it works in backward as well. Like, when is the last time you felt happy? When's the last time you felt, like your life was in balance, per se? Balance. When's the last time you felt calm, felt at peace? What was going on in your life back then? What were you doing? Who was there? What else was happening around you that may contribute to that? That's what we want to go back to. So we can identify the things that cause the stress and the things that bring peace. Then we reduce the stressors, right? And increase the positive things in your life. That's a good place to start. But also, we talk about asking for help, amplifying your strength, like I mentioned earlier. If you sometimes we are stressed because now we're trying to do too much. We're trying to do too much of the things that are too hard for us. Like, it's okay for you to say, you know what? Like, I love what I do. And everybody else, other business owner, especially in the US, you have to do taxes, you have to documentation, all of that. I don't like doing those things. You know what? So I want to focus on what I can do and let everybody else do everything else that I don't want to do. But then when I amplify my strength, that might look like learning something new, spending time, connecting with people who do the exact same thing. So you're fueling your life with more healthy pleasures, if you want, healthy things that brings joy and peace instead of always, being caught up in this cycle that's draining your energy all the time.
Oh, I love that. I love when you said go back and think about that point in time when you were less stressed or were at peace. Now, what about someone who's thinking, wow, that was way before I got married, way before I had kids. Now, you can't go back to that point in time. But so, how can you help people find that same space, even though when they really dig down previously in their life is totally different now?
Yeah. And that brings a good point, though. And yes, it seems like the circumstances have changed, but what's often risky is that we start losing ourselves in the roles that we take. So I have to say, okay, that was back then. I still want you to take me back there. What was life back then that made things like what was how were things back then that make life tech for you? Because we can always bring some of it back. It's not because now we're married, we have kids, we you know we're a leader, we start a company that we have to forget who we are because the more we lose ourselves, the less we value ourselves, then the harder it is to ask others to value us. Right. So I still want to go there and allow people to explore. Some people like, I don't even know who I was anymore. I can't remember what I did. And we go back memory lane and explore and and but also exploring not just back there, but also here. If there was no restrictions, I tell people, think about money is not a problem, time is not an issue. What would you rather be doing right now? Let's dream a little. And then people come with things that then some of the dreams they had 10, 15, 20 years ago start coming out. Right? Like, well, I didn't do it back then, but it's something I always thought about doing. So, okay, can we explore that now? And then that could lead to, even if the example you share your personal example, where we might, make a sacrifice somewhere because we realize this is what we need for this season. Right. And I often tell to my female leaders, sometimes we're making 6, 7 figures. I say, what's the price for you put on your peace right now? What's the price tag for sleep? Right? What's the price tag to see your son, daughter graduate? Because there's some things that we can't go back to. We're going to miss that because we're going to change. We're chasing this ladder, and the ladder never ends, right? So also the expectations we're putting on ourselves can be what's really causing more stress on us. It's okay to be you and do life the way that works for you.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. I love when you said, what's the price? What is the price of your piece? So someone is thinking, wow, I really need to talk to Chou. How can someone get in contact with you?
Definitely. Yeah. So my website is graceandhopeconsulting.com and it's spelled out A-N-D. So if you go there, you can connect with me right there. Phone number, email, everything's on there. But also if you want to follow me, also connect with me on social media, on LinkedIn, I'm under Chou Hallegra. So Chou, it's Chou. Hallegra is Hallegra.
Awesome. And what do you have anything to offer our audience if they come out, go to your website, give a free gift checklist? What do you have for our audience?
So I like doing things in a personalized way. So instead of giving a checklist that maybe you don't need or a tool that's not where you are right now in your journey, I like to spend time with you. I want to connect with you and make you feel like the most important person during that time. So I you can connect with me for a free consult. And there's also actually a button right on my website to do that. But if you want the direct link, it's currently / Grace and Hope Consulting. And we connect so that we can help, we can figure out for you what are the points that are causing stress, right? And what is it you need right now? And then I can give you a resource that tailor to this current situation that you're in so that you have exactly what you need when you need it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chou. All right, my Elevate Your Value audience. I'm sure you had pen and paper and you were taking notes, and there was something that you heard that's like, oh, you know what? She's right. I am out of balance. I have stress in my life. I need to go back and think about when was I the happiest? And how can I recreate a sense of that now? So, Chou, thank you so much for joining me
So,
here on the Elevate Your Value Summit. So appreciate you being with us. And to my Elevate Your Value audience, thank you so much for being with us and enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you so much.